Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter with Knoxville native Big Joe getting back to you for after a couple weeks off. We had a little weather problems that got in our way. We are back. We are getting ready for the last two games. Well, the last games of the playoffs before the Super Bowl. We have a lot going on, but before we get into everything, we got some breaking news. I'm going to let Nate bring it out there.
Buddy, pretty crazy action right now. Just hit the wire right before we were getting ready to start. The Atlanta Falcons, who were rumored to be hiring Bill Belichick, have said no to the six-time Super Bowl champion and have announced they are going to hire Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator from the LA Rams. So I don't know, man. Nothing against Raheem Morris. I think he's a pretty good coach, but the last couple of years, honestly, the Rams' issues have been on defense. And if I got a choice between Bill Belichick and Raheem Morris, I'll take Bill Belichick every time. I just don't think I think people are kind of nervous to bring Bill Belichick in because they just don't want this guy who has 6 rings sitting over here while they're sitting over here. And I don't know, man. I just think people are kind of scared to bring him in and have him as their coach with the, train of accolades he has behind him. So I don't know. What do you think of the move?
Well, first of all, the more and more I watch this go on with Belichick, I think what I see with Belichick, yes, you're getting one of the great coaches of all time, but you're getting me at 71 years old. I mean, he when the Patriots moved on him, he was in his late 40s, early 50s. So it's a short-term solution. I think more and more, I think these guys are going for the younger coaches in hopes they work out and they stay for a while. Continuity breeds success. I mean, you look at Mike Tomlin. You get him in his 30s. He's now getting into his 50s, but he's been there for how many years? I mean, you can do the short-term solutions all the time or try that way with I don't know where it's worked really, because I mean McVay, you can do short-term solutions with players, but not coaches. Coaches have to be there to keep the continuity between the team and to work with the GM and keep everything going, as planned, right the ship, go well. I think Belichick is, he wants to win. He wants to break the record. He'd love to win a Super Bowl without Brady so he can get that monkey of his back. That may be the only monkey on his back. But I can't see him working more than 3 more years, any way you look at it. Whereas Raheem Morris, if he works out, you might have him for 10 years. I just think that's the unattractive part of Belichick. I don't think it's a stigma of the last 3 years. I think anybody who'd been watching him understands this year it was a collapse of the offense. The offense has been heading in the wrong direction, but the defense has been great for the last 4 years. So Belichick hasn't lost the ability to coach. Maybe not having a Scott Pioli or one of these other scouts that could run his scouting department and get him the right players has hurt him. But I can see people. Belichick, I don't want to say he's damaged goods, but he has to get into the right place. He'd be a perfect guy to go replace, somebody who's ready to win right now. But Atlanta's not ready to win right now.
No, that's a good point. My point is, we've seen Raheem Morris as a head coach before.
Yeah.
He's been a head coach. He was the head coach in Tampa, and he was 21-38. Yeah. So it is what it is. Sometimes guys have that kind of a resume and a record after coaching, somewhere for a couple of years, and then they never get another head coaching job. But he's gotten kind of 2 opportunities. He was the head coach in Tampa. He was only 33 years old. Everybody thought he was going to be the next big deal. He was 3-13 in his first year. The second year they went 10-6. And everybody was pretty high on him. And then they went 4-12, and he got fired. And then he, took over as the interim coach in 2020 in Atlanta. I think he 4-7 there. So, I don't know. I just think about, the assistants that come from the McVay tree. Some of them haven't worked out. Others have done okay. But, I just think it's kind of It's kind of a questionable move. Is this guy an upgrade over Arthur Smith? I don't think so. Arthur Smith is a pretty damn good football coach, and I thought he did a pretty good job considering the crap roster that they had. I didn't know if Arthur Smith would be a good head coach, but honestly, you look at what he had on that team and you look at what he was able to do. I mean, he had no quarterback. You didn't get him a quarterback, and then you expect him to win a championship? I mean, give me a break.
That's the problem, is he never had a quarterback to work with there, and that led to his downfall. So, and the other thing is, like, you look at it, the reason I looked at Atlanta as a perfect place for Belichick to land was my theory was this is what was going to happen. He was going to somehow get to Atlanta, re-up with Josh McDaniel, pry Jimmy Garoppolo, who the Raiders probably want to get rid of for cheap, just to get him down there. He'd be his bridge quarterback for 2 years, 3 years, and
draft somebody,
and maybe for his son or somebody else. In 3 years, he walks away, hopefully steals a Super Bowl and gets the record, and he goes happily back up to wherever he lives. I think on Block Island or something, or Martha's Vineyard, and he's gone. So that was where I thought. And the thing is, because of that division being so bad, that would be a perfect landing spot for him, because he'd be the best coach in the division automatically right away. And, with a halfway decent team, he could win right away. But this is the thing you got to think about too. This is what makes it strange. I think Raheem Morris, I'm glad you brought that up, that he had coached there before. So maybe Arthur Blank feels comfortable with him, feels he made a mistake and wants to go back on it. Maybe that's one thing. But the one thing is, if I'm Arthur Blank and I'm getting up there in years, and I've been to 2 Super Bowls since I've owned the Atlanta Falcons and never won one, I'd be looking at Belichick seriously to steal me that Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, he's gone through a couple of different coaches here. The last few years, they had Dan Quinn. He went to a Super Bowl with him, and then he got rid of Dan Quinn because he kept saying that he wanted to win a championship. And you think Raheem Morris is going to bring you a Super Bowl over Bill Belichick? I mean, that's my question. It doesn't make any practical sense. And good luck, Raheem. I like Raheem Morris, actually. I think he's a pretty cool guy. And, I thought I liked him and his approach when it was in Tampa. But, he had that one good year. And other than that, it was kind of So, I just think he's got a tough task ahead of him. This roster is, got some decent pieces. But as a whole, I think it's pretty garbage. The good news is you're in that division. But do I think the Falcons are just going to win it and take it over because Raheem Morris is the coach? No, I don't. I thought Todd Bowles did a pretty good job down in Tampa this year. It looks like they found, lightning in a bottle with Baker Mayfield. And, if things can get turn around in Carolina, that could cause additional issues. But I'm just not sure that Raheem Morris is going to get you over the hump and is an upgrade over what I just said, Arthur Smith, and then B, Dan Quinn, who took you to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it is a strange hire. I mean, that was kind of a, when you think of Bobby Slowick, people are really hot on Bobby Slowick coming out of Houston. I guess Brian Callahan's going to end up in Tennessee, but there's a couple of Ben Johnson is still out there. So those were bigger names than Raheem Morris, and you would think that you would wait for Ben Johnson at least to be out so you could actually legitimately talk about hiring him. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe Raheem Morris knew what Blank wanted to hear because he'd worked for him before, and maybe he came in and did a great interview. It's funny when you think about it. It's like, and I'm not trying to laugh at this, but Raheem Morris, this is his third shot at it, and Eric Bieniemy can't even get one.
Yeah,
it's like you sit there and you go, "What? Wait, time out."
Well, and it's like Jim Caldwell, who was an amazing coach.
Yeah,
won everywhere he was at and did a fabulous job, and no one's given him another chance ever. Yeah. And then there's people like this who just didn't really ever do anything, and they get three opportunities. It's kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, unless he says that he went in there and says, I got this guy, I'm going to bring this guy. So we're going to hit the ground running, and we can compete right away. I don't know. You never know who these guys. I'm sure a bunch of these guys, when they go in to be interviewed, they have their coordinators picked. They've already reached out to them, and as soon as they get the job, they know how to hit the run floor running. Who knows? But I mean, it is a strange pick, and it is, hey, Belichick's window of getting a job this year is closing. It's kind of really maybe it might be a sad ending to what was a great career that nobody wants him.
Yeah,
that's really weird. Let's talk to a couple of them. I hear. What do you think about Brian Callahan going to Tennessee? I mean, this guy, God bless him, but he's walking into one of the worst situations I think you can walk into. And how much time is Tennessee going to give him to rebuild that thing? They got nothing.
Well, you got Brian Callahan now, and you've got Rand Carthon as your GM and your executive vice president. This in my opinion is set up for disaster.
Yeah.
When has Brian Callahan ever been a head coach?
Never
been a head coach in his life. He's never been a head coach in high school. He's never been a head coach in college. He's never been a head coach in the pros. Good luck.
And the other thing about him was he didn't become a genius offensive coordinator until he was given Joe Burrow. So yeah, I mean, it's like he had the your boy the red Rocketeer up there and didn't do anything phenomenal with him. I mean, but all of a sudden Joe Burrow gets there and he's a genius.
Yes, kind of like the head coach who also was about to get fired before they got Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow takes him to the Super Bowl. So everybody thinks Zach Taylor is a great coach now, but he was about to get fired right before Joe Burrow arrived. And when we saw what it looked like without Joe Burrow this year, even though Jake Browning was pretty good.
Yeah.
But, I think I listened to the press conference and was not impressed. It sounded like someone wrote the speech for him and gave it to him, and then he read it horribly. So I just don't think this is going to go very well at all. And I don't think this is a good hire. Once again, I just talked about, Arthur Smith getting fired and whether Raheem Morris is an upgrade over him. Do you think that Brian Callahan is an upgrade over Mike Vrabel?
No, nowhere near.
Not even close. I mean, Mike Vrabel willed the Titans to victories a lot of times when they had no business winning. This guy's not going to do that.
Let's put it this way. The two most important names in football in Nashville for the last 5-6 years were Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel. And it was on those two, Vrabel being kind of like a Dan Campbell kind of person down there, going against the curve sometimes, gambling when he needed to, bringing the best out of what he had, and then saying, Derrick Henry's my only weapon. So God bless you, Derrick. As long as you can hold up, I love you, brother.
Yeah, Derrick Henry was that whole team because they kind of refused to fix the offense and get a quarterback. And, I just feel bad for Derrick Henry because he, never really had a chance to thrive. And we never got to see his full potential because, there was very rarely any offense around him. And you look at that one season, I believe it was 2019, when Tannehill played fairly well, and Derrick Henry got banged up. So I just think that getting out of there is the best thing that could have happened for Mike Vrabel, and that's the best thing that could have happened for Derrick Henry. And I look at the Titans as a team that's going in the wrong direction, and it's going to continue to go that way.
Especially with the young quarterbacks that are in their division. How about I think the Raiders did a smart thing keeping Antonio Pierce. I think for once, Mark Davis maybe channeled his father and said, instead of doing something stupid like in old Al Davis when he brought up John Madden and those guys, I'm going to stay in-house. I got a guy who the locker room trusts. I don't know how far they can go. I think they're another team that's going to need a quarterback situation to be looked at, evaluated, and overdone. But they do have some pieces there, and these guys play hard for Antonio Pierce, and that's number one, is getting a guy they love and they will listen to.
Yeah, well, they screwed up, last time when the interim coach came in and did a great job and led him to the playoffs, and they let that guy walk. which made absolutely no sense. And then they go out and get Josh McDaniels, who's proven that he's not a head coach and that he can't do it. And then they go out and sign Jimmy Garoppolo and give him a bunch of money, and then decide that they're not going to play him anymore. That to me was very confusing.
I don't get that.
Either he's your guy or he's not your guy. You don't go out and get him and bring him in and then bench him without him really doing anything wrong. I mean, the offense was just a mess, and it was all based on what the coach was trying to do. Not the quarterback's not in charge of formatting the offense. So I really was confused about that. But I think if Jimmy can get out of Oakland or get out of Las Vegas, that might be the best thing for him. And start like you said, go somewhere and be the bridge guy. But I thought that Antonio Pierce did a tremendous job considering what he was working with. Aiden O'Connell was his quarterback, and he was able to be very competitive with him and win games. Think about if they actually get somebody in there that can push the needle at the quarterback position. Yeah. So I think Antonio Pierce was a leader when he played for the Giants. He was a leader when he played for the Redskins. I thought he did a pretty good job actually, as the recruiting coordinator when he was at Arizona State with Herm Edwards. And, I thought he did a great job this year. So that one didn't surprise me and made sense. These other ones so far, wow, don't make any sense at all.
And then we got Harbaugh going out to L.A. That was written in stone. And no matter what he said, that was going to happen no matter what. He's pulling he's getting out of town because he knows something's going to come down if he doesn't. He's probably doing Michigan a favor because maybe the NCAA will go light on them rather than have him sitting there a la the way Jerry Tarkanian used to get killed because, he stayed in Nevada, Las Vegas all those years and they were out to get him from then on. So maybe he's doing Michigan a favor. We'll see what he does. Again, here's another, both Antonio Pierce and him are running into the same problem, which is Kansas City's in your division. And this team, I told you all year long I was worried about them. And last week they played the best game of the year. So maybe I think I was right to be worried about them all year long. But right now it looks like the playoffs, they found another level.
I was never worried about them because they have Andy Reid and they have Patrick Mahomes and they have Steve Spagnuolo calling their defense. And you've noticed that as long as they've got Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo, that defense has been phenomenal. And he's been able to operate it with a bunch of different pieces, on the defense. And they've been able to draft really well on defense too. Let's be honest. Last year they played 6 rookies started for them on defense. And this year they've incorporated some more and still have some young guys. So that to me has been phenomenal. As I did mention, I thought they needed to add another wide receiver at the trade deadline. They didn't do it. They brought McCole Hardman back. Big mistake there as that kid fumbled the ball out of the end zone when they were about to put the game away on Sunday. That was crazy to me. I mean, quit giving this guy the football. You hand him the ball once in the first half, he fumbles it. And then you give it to him on a reverse in the fourth quarter when you're on the 2-yard line and he fumbles it out of the back of the end zone. Cut this guy right now.
That's kind of the Andy Reid way. I mean, sometimes he gets a little too cute, a little too smart, but he's still one of the great coaches of all time. The other thing I think that no one, I think Pacheco, for some reason, I think he might have been a little beat up. I think he suddenly found his legs again.
He was beat up, but he he proved in that game that he could still get it done even with his injury. And that's why when he got him down there and you're on the 2-yard line, give the ball to Pacheco and get out of the way.
Right.
This guy is a just phenomenal running back. And I have to admit, Pop, as they call him, flew a little bit under the radar. I saw him play at Rutgers and thought he was pretty good, but I had no clue that this guy was going to come in to the NFL and do what he's done. Now, obviously, it always helps based on what team you go to, but this guy he's a lightning rod.
But also, it's got to be hard at Rutgers. I mean, you watch a lot more of the odd games. I watch maybe the main games of the football season, but when you're playing with Rutgers and you're down 21-0 in the first quarter, like Ohio State or Penn State or one like that, they're not going to run the ball a lot. So it's hard to see is how good he was going to be when he probably didn't get as many carries as he probably deserved in Rutgers just because they were playing from behind a lot.
Yeah.
Let's get to a little bit of the weird gossip that's going on this week. Two quarterbacks that are now under the gun. Josh Allen up in Buffalo it still has a Patrick Mahomes Kansas City problem, and Dak Prescott. First thing I think two things that are really killing quarterbacks over the last 20 years has been the success of Tom Brady and the success of Patrick Mahomes. Every quarterback is measured up to that consistent success. I mean, winning 8 straight division titles. Brady winning 20 out of 21 division titles when he was with New England. I mean, people got to understand that these two are an anomaly. They're not. That's not the way it's supposed to work for quarterbacks. I mean, even Elway didn't make the Super Bowl every year. Montana didn't make the Super Bowl every year. They didn't win their divisions every year. So, I mean, it's hard with these young quarterbacks being measured up against their success. So, I think Josh Allen has done a great job. He kept him in that game, but there is, I mean, first of all, they went into they people got to remember they were playing without Matt Milano. They were playing with without a lot of their people on their defensive side, especially. And I just think that they're playing against right now the best player in football.
Well, my question is, why does their head coach keep getting a pass? I mean, he's the one that's been the mainstay there. I mean, Josh Allen isn't the problem. Josh Allen does just about everything out there, and the coach is in charge of the defense, and they gave up too many points. They've switched offensive coordinators a couple of times, twice. Once this season they had 2 offensive coordinators this year. They've moved on. They moved on from the defensive coordinator. They said it was his choice. I don't know whether it was or not, but he became the defensive coordinator, and they keep bringing him back, and everybody talks about how great McDermott is. He is pretty good regular season coach, but except for this year, and but they can't get over the hump in the playoffs. But it's, what do you want to do? You want to try something new, or do you want to keep doing the same thing over and over again? And it seems like up in Buffalo, they're going to just keep trying the same thing over and over again. They did, some stuff to try to improve the running game, whereas they brought, James Cook into the fold. He seemed to really provide a boost there in the backfield. But now the problem is your number one receiver, who was, making plays for you all over the place in years past. He's north of 31, 32 years old now. And the explosive plays just haven't been there. He hadn't had to play over 40 yards in like the last 14 games. And he's just not the difference maker he once was. And they've got a lot of money invested in that guy. And to me, you got to move on from Diggs at this point. And the guy's always complain about something anyway. Get rid of him. Get Gabe Davis more involved, and get somebody else that can get downfield.
I like Gabe Davis. I like him in big games, but he had some inconsistency this year. He had a little few drops, and then he got injured, of course. But everybody has drops. But I mean, it's just like, I agree that not having Gabe Davis there hurt them a lot, and also he should be the guy that you're rounding into shape to be your number one receiver. So we'll see. And then, of course, we have the drama in Dallas. They should just make it a freaking soap opera. For most of the season, everybody's Dak's MVP candidate. Dak's going to be this. Dak's going to be that. And he deserved that kind of recognition throughout the season. But he has the Tony Romo problem. Great during the season. Somewhere in the playoffs, he freezes up. He loses it. He makes mistakes in the worst possible times. Those interceptions that he threw the first one was a great play by the defensive back, but the second one was, why are you throwing that there?
You're talking about Dak Prescott?
Yeah.
I mean, once again, it wasn't really his fault they lost. I mean, I'm sorry, but that game was brutally out of the stratosphere for being able to be won because they were getting their asses kicked so badly. On defense. So
yeah, I agree. They couldn't stop Jordan Love, but I mean, the other thing was Dak didn't help the job with those 2 interceptions. The first interception gave them a chance. I wouldn't get a field goal or a touchdown out of that Green Bay. I can't remember.
I don't know. We're talking 2 weeks ago, so
Yeah,
I can't really remember.
I
But
understand.
that game was out. I mean, they scored 48 points. The
Yeah.
Packers did. I mean, you can't really. I don't know why we're blaming the offense when the Packers, with their first year starting quarterback, dropped 48 points. They had 20 points in the second quarter. I mean, that's not Dak Prescott's fault when they're down
one of them
27-7.
One of them was the legit the pick six right there. That's 7 of it.
7 of the 48. I mean,
No,
okay, so it's 41.
But that's when it was competitive at that point, or could have been competitive if he could have just kept him in there. We'll never know. I mean, the way it's steamrolled. But I mean, there's another team where you look at it and you go, "What's missing?" I mean, I understand what we talked about.
It wasn't even Jordan Love, really. It was Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
The Cowboys got run over by Aaron Jones. He had 21 carries for 118 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns.
And
Dak Prescott wasn't on the field for any one of those.
That goes right back to what you were saying about Dan Quinn and his defense, how he doesn't have legitimate linebackers in there. When all season long, that was their problem. That's what the Cardinals did to him in the third week of the season or fourth week of the season? Ran the ball down their throats. They can't stop the run. How can you not stop the run?
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue. I mean, this game was over before it started because Aaron Jones, would still be running even if he wasn't there. And 21 carries for 118 yards, that's 5.6 per play. There's nothing you can do if your defense is giving up 6 yards every time the guy touches the football out of the backfield. I mean, that's just beyond ridiculous. Now, their secondary didn't do much either, considering Jordan Love was 16 of 21 for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, that to me, Dak wasn't great in this game. I'm not saying that he was, but it didn't really matter what he did. If you let the other team score 50 points in a playoff game, you're not going to win.
Yeah, but there was something off between him and CeeDee Lamb. There was something wrong. They weren't clicking all day long. And, I mean, they don't have a good running attack in Dallas to begin with. Pollard's up and down. He misses. He was great as a two-headed monster with Zeke, but not so much without Zeke. He's a great change of pace guy. He's not a 40 carry. Give me the ball, I'll get you 120 yards, 160 yards, and save our bacon here. But there was something definitely off with the Dallas offense. It was just a bad day for them overall. I mean, that just like you just got squashed. But we will see. That's more of the conversation we'll have in the offseason. Excuse me. Let's get to this week's games. The games that really count. We have, of course, the early game, which is Kansas City against Baltimore, which could turn out to be a classic. With these two quarterbacks, the way they are playing right now, you have 2 great coaches. You have 2 good defenses. I mean, I think maybe Baltimore might be a little bit more talented, but as you said, Spagnuolo has shown time and time again he's built for playoff defense. Coming up with a playoff defense. Kelsey, this should be a great game. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You got to have a great coach, right? Both these teams have a great coach. You got to have a great quarterback, right? Both these teams have a great quarterback. You got to have a tremendously good, reliable kicker. Both these teams have a really good, tremendously reliable kicker. You got to have a defense that can get you some stops and that can scheme based on what the other team is doing and make adjustments and help out the offense. Both these teams have that. So, this is definitely, in my opinion, the 2 best teams meeting each other in the conference championship, the 2 best teams in the AFC squaring off. If ever the Ravens were going to beat the Chiefs, I would think it would be this year. I mean, they finally have a couple of – I've been saying this for years. Like, who the hell is Lamar supposed to throw it to? Well, he finally has some guys out there that can make plays. I mean, they drafted the young kid out of Boston College.
Yeah, Flowers has been great. Who's
proven to be a really, really good wide receiver, and he can run the ball, and he can do everything. And I'm really liking what Zay Flowers brings to the table. And then, they've got the old veteran and Odell Beckham, who's not the same guy, but, he still had 64 catches
I know.
for over 550 yards this year, and
I know, but
got a couple touchdowns. But they got Mark Andrews, who
that's
has
gonna
been
be
banged up.
interesting. That's gonna
But
be an interesting thing. Him coming back. How healthy is he? Because if
yeah,
Andrews, if Andrews is like 75, 80%, I remember as a Giant fan, I remember the second Giant run to the Super Bowl. Mark Bavaro was not the Mark Bavaro of 86 or 85 when he could go down the seam for 30, 40 yards. But he made so many big catches in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl for their extending drives, 8-yard catches, 12-yard catches around the end zone. He was a big first down maker for him. So if Andrews is 80% can fill that role, that's a big thing for them.
Well, the good news for them is, regardless of his health, and what I was going to say was that Isaiah Likely has stepped up big time and proven that he could potentially be a number one tight end. I mean, he's got 30 catches for 411 yards and 5 touchdowns after he took over. That's almost the same stats that Mark Andrews had before he went down. So
right.
I really like Likely. Aguilar and Bateman, those guys aren't great, but those guys can do some stuff.
Fill in the blanks.
You're talking about the the best offensive package that the Lamar's ever had, and it's showing, man. I mean, you think about it too. J.K. Dobbins has been injured, hasn't really played all year. They've had to rely on Justice Hill and the rookie Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards and Melvin Gordon and whoever the hell else they can throw out there. But really, as a collective, this is the best offense that offensive group of guys that they've had since Lamar's been there.
Yeah, they didn't use Moss yet in the first playoff games. Do you think they'll use him more this game?
Who's that?
The running back from the Jets, or Minnesota. The other Minnesota Jets running back they picked up late. Baltimore.
Dalvin Cook.
Cook.
Yes, Dalvin Cook. Yeah, they started to incorporate him a little bit last week, especially after they got up.
Yeah,
it looked like they were kind of trying to bring him in and have him run the ball a little bit. Trying to get him comfortable, and I feel like they were doing that so that potentially they could use him in the next couple games if they needed to. And I think that's smart. I think that's really smart because he's a good football player and never really got a chance in New York for whatever reason.
What a waste that was.
He had 8 carries for 23 yards, and that was when they knew they were going to run it. So yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It was a waste. Why sign him in New York if you're not even going to give him the goddamn ball? I mean, that makes no sense.
Especially when Rodgers went down. I would have given him the ball 30 times a game.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we got Breece Hall. Great, use them both. Yeah. Hand the ball to Breece Hall. When Breece Hall's worn out, hand the ball to Dalvin Cook. So it made no sense why they paid him a big chunk of cash and then released him and let him walk and go sign with the contender in Baltimore. So it worked out good for Dalvin Cook. Yeah. But it's typical Jets.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Dalvin Cook have 100 yards in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't unleash him because his legs are healthy. Yeah. If they use him early in the game and he gets a rhythm going, I could see him doing like a 15 for 90 yards, 20 for 105, being that kind of a runner for them and taking that pressure off of Lamar and being something else that Kansas City has to worry about. Let's go on to the West Coast here. Emotionally here, this is the game I'm going to be really into, and I'm going to be really rooting hard for Detroit, but I in my mind, I can't come up with the way they can do it unless some things go really wrong for San Francisco. I mean, I'd love to see Goff get to a Super Bowl just to, kind of say to the people in LA, say, I wasn't that bad, right? I love Campbell. I love it to be a great story for Detroit to get there. But, man, San Francisco, I mean, even with now the people detracting from Purdy, this goes back to the conversation we had a few minutes ago. Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Burrow, Josh Allen, they're different animals. Every other quarterback in the NFL kind of falls into place week to week. They go up and down, up and down. Your 4 best quarterbacks are there. Stop comparing, expecting Brock Purdy to become the next Pat Mahomes. Let's see how good a Brock Purdy he can become.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you want from this guy. He's thrown for 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, and only 11 picks on the
I
entire
don't want any
season.
more. I don't want.
Coming off a major surgery that
Yeah,
no quarterback has ever come back from before.
and nobody ever brings it up. I know it's crazy.
I think that's pretty good in year one coming back from that injury. And let's be honest. I'm not that impressed with what with what the 49ers bring to the table outside, except for Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. Brandon Ayuk is good. George Kittle is good. But these other wide receivers they have, you saw when Deebo Samuel got injured, it was just not the same on offense, and they struggled to pretty much do anything. I mean, you think about Chris Conley and Ray McLeod out there, running a lot of the offensive plays at the outside receiver positions. Chris Conley and Ray McLeod, those guys are just, they're guys. Yeah. And that's just a fact. So, I mean, I think that's what had a lot to do with it. Jawan Jennings, actually came up with some pretty nice catches, but he's more of a possession receiver. Yeah. And, they need Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel out there to make the passing game go. And they've got to get George Kittle had a couple of drops that caused issues. So they need to get George Kittle going. They need to get Deebo healthy, and they need Brandon Ayuk to step up and do something because those are the playmakers. And you can blame the quarterback all you want, but that you got to really look at what's going down.
No, I don't blame you. I think he's been outstanding since he's been here. I mean, I'll tell you, you and I both, we talked about Brock Purdy 3 years ago at Iowa State, and we talked about his potential for being good. Now, he lost a little bit in the senior year. He didn't have as great a year as expected. That's probably why he fell in the draft. But I like to see how he's popped back, and he seems like a classy good guy. And he's done a job since he's been in there. You can't take away from it. And you can sit there and tell me it's a system situation. Look, there's no proof anywhere that if Tom Brady had ended up on a crappy team, he would have been the GOAT. It's about getting the quarterback with the right coach at the right time in the right situation, because we've both seen really good quarterbacks come out of college. Then you sit there and you go, man, if he was only in another town, what he could be.
It's happened a million times, but I've got to say, the thing that I'm not worried about the San Francisco offense. They'll do their thing. They'll score some points. They'll be fine. What worried me, in that NFC divisional round game against the Packers was the San Francisco defense. Jordan Love was slicing them up. I know he threw a couple of interceptions to Greenlaw, and those were kind of the difference in the game. If that hadn't happened, Aaron Jones still went 6 yards a pop, 18 carries for 108 yards, different team, different week, same result. Aaron Jones running over people. And then these young wideouts for the Packers are really, coming around. Romeo Dobbs, he's going to be a heck of a player. Jaden Reed, the kid from Michigan State, he's a rookie and really, really took off in his first season. I like what I've seen out of Bo Melton and Christian Watson and Wilson and all those guys. They look pretty good for how young they are. So, San Francisco got lucky to win this game. I mean, let's just be honest, man. Green Bay scored points in every quarter, including 15 points in the third quarter, and then they just got shut out in the fourth because of those interceptions when they were getting close.
Well, and also, I mean, there's another reason that if I'm Detroit, I want to make my run to the Super Bowl now, looking at what Green Bay is going to be next year if everybody stays together and stays healthy. That's going to be a very competitive division next year and a fun division to watch. What is the Detroit path to get through San Francisco to Vegas?
It's keep doing what they're doing. This offense has been, doing their thing all year long. Ever since they brought Jahmyr Gibbs on slowly, which was very, very smart, because right now they've got a two-headed monster in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And people don't understand this, but Detroit, everybody thinks they're a, big play, throw the football kind of team, and they are, but they're mainly a running team because they lead the NFL in time of possession because they possess the football. They'll run the ball. Big play to St. Brown. Big play to Laporta. pass out to Jahmyr Gibbs that he busts. Jamison Williams is another guy that can bust deep plays. And then you got Josh Reynolds as a guy who can, kind of be that possession guy. So this offense is very good about getting first downs and making, keeping the defense off the field. And that is what Detroit needs to do. Keep their defense off the field, possess the football, get points every time. You don't necessarily have to score a touchdown every time, but get a field goal, get points, and then, keep Brock Purdy and the boys on the bench. And if they can do that, they can win this game. They've won 12 football games this year. I can't recall the time Detroit won 12 football games. I don't think it's ever happened in my lifetime. So if they were ever going to do it, it's going to be this year. And this is a team that can travel, man. They've got a good offensive line. They've got, a good quarterback. They've got a good running game. So I have no worries about them going on the road and getting it done.
I'll give you, before we make our picks of the weekend, I'm going to give you a weird coincidence, okay? I looked this up. It's 1957. Detroit and San Francisco are in the same division in the NFL. They tied 8-4 for the year. So they had to play a playoff game before the NFC championship game. And Detroit went to San Francisco and beat San Francisco out there, overcame a big deficit, and then killed Cleveland to win their last championship they ever won.
59 to 14 over Cleveland.
Yeah, so maybe there is some kind of a karma with that kind of a thing. Maybe we'll see something repeat itself. Who knows? But we're coming down to the end tonight, so let's get our picks. You make your first AFC pick.
I'm taking the Ravens. I think they're going to get it done. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are where they are because of their quarterback and their coach, and they're a good football team, and they're the team that gets it done every year. But the Ravens have always been good since Lamar has been there. They just, he's gotten hurt, and they've had trouble winning without him, and they've had some issues defensively. But this year, they've got it all worked out on defense. Roquan Smith was a huge pickup for them. I love the combination of Roquan and Patrick Queen together as linebackers. Who knows if that'll carry on next year, because they signed Roquan, they haven't signed Queen, and I feel like this is the Ravens' year if they're going to get it done.
I gotta agree with you there. I just think that the Stars are like the biggest thing that of all the things that we saw this year over anything was Lamar was healthy, and when Lamar is healthy, as great as Mahomes is, he's not head and shoulders above Lamar. They both can do a lot of the same things. Lamar might be a little bit of a runner, whereas maybe Patrick's more of a polished passer. But either they're at 1 and 1A as the best quarterbacks in football right now. It's going to be an interesting game, and I just think that the Ravens, the home crowd, I think, like I said, I thought that Kansas City was struggling this year. Struggling for them is a pretty damn good year. I just think, I think it's Baltimore's time. So I agree with you. I think Baltimore can get through there. I'll take the first pick out in the NFC, and I am going to be rooting like hell for Detroit, but I think we're going to get the teams that have been the best all year long. San Francisco, I think they're going to make it. We're going to have a San Francisco Ravens Super Bowl rematch of the Harbaugh Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to take the Niners because I think the Niners are going to win. I mean, I as I just said, Detroit is perfectly capable of winning this football game. But let's break down what they've done, in the playoffs here. I mean, 24-23 victory over the Rams. They could have easily lost that game. Everything kind of went right for them.
Right.
Every call kind of went their way. It's kind of been that way all the way around. And it's also true. They had that bad call against Dallas, but ever since then, they've kind of gotten every call, every ball's bounced their way. Even in the Buccaneers game, that was kind of a rough call there at the end that hurt the Buccaneers, or else, Tampa Bay could have won that game. So that to me is what makes me a little bit nervous, is they could have lost both their playoff games that they won, and both of them were very close. And I think if Debo plays, I just think that defense of Detroit is what bothers me. Their offense is fine, but their secondary is garbage, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to get enough pass rush to slow them down. And I feel like Christian McCaffrey's going to have another big day because he always does.
Yeah. All right, so that's what we're looking at. We both picked the same teams. We'll see how it goes. I will be rooting against my pick, of course, because of Detroit. But I will be rooting. I want to see the Ravens get through. Although it's got to be hard for you if a Harbaugh wins the national championship, then a Harbaugh wins a Super Bowl.
I don't have a problem with John Harbaugh. I actually like him. Jim Harbaugh is the only one that's a dick. And they'll find that out real quick in San Diego or Los Angeles, wherever the hell the Chargers play their games these days. They'll find it out real quick. And as you mentioned, good luck beating Patrick Mahomes twice a year. Russell Wilson thought he could do it, and Sean Payton thought he could do it, and Josh McDaniels thought he can do it, and Brandon, what the hell his name was, that was the coach of the Chargers before, he thought he could do it. Lots of guys thought they could beat Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid, and lots of them lost their jobs.
As my favorite line from The Wire was, "You come for the king, you best not miss."
Yeah, no shit.
Right, my friend. Have a good night. I'll see you next week. All right, and let's enjoy the football.
Sounds good, buddy. Have a good one.